This is the way for Mandalorian Season 3 Episode 2 leaks, and today we're going to be breaking them down and running them alongside their relevant clips in the trailer so you can see just how these leaks are going to play out. This is your spoiler warning. If you don't want to know what happens in the next episode, then check away now, because this is going to be a big one. But if, like me, leaks don't spoil your experience of watching the episode, then stick around, you're going to like this. These leaks are being reported by multiple sources, it's important to note, such as Making Star Wars and Bespin Bulletin. We know how good their track records are at this point, but also from a Reddit user called Main Imagination, who I know has been very accurate with their leaks for the Andor series. And what's more, we've also got a leaked image from this next episode which shows us something big. Let's get straight into it. Episode 2 opens on Mos Eisley, Tatooine. It's Bunta Eve, which is the pod race with Anakin in The Phantom Menace. This time it seems to be in the evening, so perhaps they've moved it away from the heat of the Twin Suns over the years, who knows. We can see two speeders racing through the streets, fireworks are going off in the background, which can be seen on the trailer, but at a different point in time to the opening scene. We cut now to Peli Motto, who's in on a scam alongside her Jawa crew that she has. The ones we saw in the Book of Boba Fett, the ones who found Mando the parts for his N1 starfighter. The Jawas have stolen parts from a Rodian ship. He's complaining to Peli that the parts have been stolen, and she promises to get the ship fixed, but once the Rodian leaves, this is where the scam comes into play. The Jawas pull up with the parts for Peli to fix back onto the ship and take the money for it. Din and Grogu land in his starfighter, and Peli asks Mando why is there? Is it to take out Boba Fett, or is it that the Hutts have returned, meaning the twins we saw in the Book of Boba Fett most likely? Which isn't the case, and he asks Peli about a memory circuit for an IG unit, which you could kind of guess she would be his go-to for that kind of stuff, given how much she has surprised him in the past with just what she can source on Tatooine. He also mentions to Peli about his plan to go to Mandalore, probably giving her the reason he needs an IG chip. Peli doesn't have the memory circuit for the IG unit though, but instead hustles him into taking R5-D4. Now this is the droid with a bad motivator from A New Hope, finally getting his chance for an adventure all them years later, although R5 is reluctant to go. Peli reinstalls the droid port on his N1 starfighter. Now it looks as though Mando does need R5 for a specific job on Tatooine of some kind, which is the reason he agrees to take him. Din, Grogu and R5 take a moment to look at the fireworks before leaving Tatooine. This is the fireworks scene from the trailer with Peli waving them off saying, "May the Force be with you." Now next stop is Mandalore. This one caught me by surprise. It looks like we're getting straight into it. It seems everything we were led to believe this season is actually going to happen very early on, which makes me wonder, well, what's coming next for the rest of the season? So Din, Grogu and R5 travel to Mandalore, but on the way, Din reveals he's never actually been to the planet. He was raised on the moon of Concordia. On the way, he points out to Grogu where it is on the Starfighter map, which is important for later on, and also points out where Bo-Katan's Mandalorian castle is that we visited in episode 1, as well as the moon he grew up on as well. So he kind of paints the picture of where it all is in relation to each other, which is likely part of teaching Grogu about navigating the galaxy, something he touched on in episode 1. They travel through a storm as they enter Mandalore's atmosphere. This is the shot we see in the trailer before the city of Sundari appears through the clouds. They land on the planet and Din sends R5 out first to take an atmospheric reading to see if the planet really is poisoned, and the results come back as not toxic. It seems as though R5 does then venture further away from the ship to scan perhaps for any life forms, whilst Din and Grogu track him from the ship, until the tracking stops. Din pressurizes and goes to find R5, leaving Grogu behind in the ship. He heads into a cave, which is another shot we see from the trailer. Making his way through the cave, he's ambushed by humanoid monsters, the same type we see in the trailer as well. He defeats them using a Darksaber, but he finds it difficult. He's still dragging a Darksaber around like he was in the Book of Boba Fett, where the blade feels very heavy to him and it just gets heavier the longer he wields it. The armourer once said he was fighting against the blade rather than fighting with it. He eventually finds R5 in the cave and returns with him to the ship, and R5 is now left at the ship whilst Din and Grogu go to explore. They're above an underground city which Din calls the Civic Centre. Inside a cave, they go lower and deep into another cave tunnel, passing a snarling bat-like dragon creature with green glowing eyes. Din comes across an old broken Mandalorian helmet, which is another shot we also see in the trailer as well, when suddenly Din is captured by a giant spider or beetle-like droid, with a glowing red centered eye. It drags Din deeper into the cave, into its lair, and places him into a cage on top of a pit as he's about to be cooked over fire, it seems, whilst Grogu follows behind in his pod. The spider beetle kind of thing is actually just the vehicle as it shuts down and a smaller version comes out from inside, and it seems to me the smaller version is pretty much just identical to the vehicle. It turns out, the larger one was just a way for it to get around and maybe a way to capture bigger prey. The lair is lit with amber lighting, it's noted. The smaller spider-like creature, or what is called a cybernetic creature, removes Din's blaster and darksaber and throws them to the ground. In what seems like a moment where the creature is distracted, rummaging around its lair for something, it gives Grogu a quick moment to go up to Din, who then tells Grogu to go and get help, go to Bo-Katan for help, which plays into Din pointing out to Grogu where Bo's castle was in relation to Mandalore on the map. Grogu rushes through the cave immediately towards the exit, followed by the dragon bat-like creature that we'd passed earlier on, and once she reaches the mouth of the cave, this is where we see the shot in the trailer where he's confronted by one of the humanoid monsters similar to what Din defeated with the darksaber when he was searching for R5 earlier on. Grogu now uses the Force to deal with it as seen in the trailer and continues back to the N1. Once he's inside, the bat dragon creature catches up and attacks, but with the help from R5 they manage to escape. So it seems like R5 is taking majority of the control of the ship here, similar to how R2 dropped Grogu off on Tatooine in Boba Fett without Luke, with Grogu simply telling R5, using the screen, pointing to the dots where to go, where Bo-Katan is, and so R5 can then navigate him there. And I think this kind of plays into Din teaching Grogu how the N1 worked and how to navigate in the first 2 episodes. The next scene now we cut to is inside Bo-Katan's castle, and she's being alerted by her droid, likely the one we see in episode 1, that a ship is approaching. This is likely the trailer shot we see with her looking through the window, and she looks annoyed. Katie Sackhoff, the actor who plays Bo-Katan, did say in a recent interview that Bo sees Din Djarin as a burden during this season. Now as the ship lands, she goes outside to meet it with the intention of having a go at Din, before Grogu appears without him, and Bo tells her droid to download R5's recent memory files to find out where they went and what's happened. Once finding out, Bo-Katan agrees to help, and the next shot is all of them now inside Bo's ship on their way to Mandalore. As they arrive, Bo tells Grogu that Mandalore hasn't always looked that way, and asks Grogu to lead the way to Din. Going through the lower cave, another one of them humanoid monsters appears, which Bo defeats really easily, and this kind of plays into the part in the trailer where Bo-Katan tells Grogu, "You didn't think your dad was the only Mandalorian." As they continue their journey to find Din, Bo mentions to Grogu that she knew a lot of Jedi in her past, which might allude to something we see later on in the season. Back with Din, and the creature is hooking him up to a machine that begins to siphon his blood. Bo arrives to fight it, and she uses her grappling hook to grab the darksaber, which is lying on the ground still, and uses it to cut off the creature's head after it tried to escape back to its vehicle. Now, Bo fights with the darksaber with ease, unlike Din, who struggles with it, destroying the machine, and this is where we cut to Din's point of view, as his vision kind of fades out to black and he passes out. Now, the next thing we know, Din wakes up lying down on the ground. Bo is making him a drink, and it's kind of like a makeshift camp that they've established, and Grogu is next to Din. They're overlooking the civic centre. Din's weapons have all been recovered from the cave and are lying on the ground next to him, including the darksaber. Now, a big point here, it means Bo-Katan didn't take it. Now, this can be debated, as if the cybernetic spider creature defeated Din and disarmed him, throwing the saber to the ground, then does that make the creature the rightful owner of the darksaber for Bo-Katan to then defeat the creature and now she's the rightful owner? That's up for debate still, and I think that might be a big talking point come the episode when the episode drops. Now, as Din comes to, Bo urges him to leave Mandalore, but Din insists on continuing his mission to the Living Waters to be redeemed, and Bo reluctantly agrees to lead him there since she knows the way. Once in the depths of Mandalore, they enter a large doorway leading to the mines. To the left of the steps, which leads down to the water, there is an inscription which Bo reads out loud, and I'm not sure what that is. It's also said Din makes a speech of some kind too. Now, Din removes his jetpack, cape and weapons and enters the water to bathe, whilst reciting the creed. Here's the really big bit. He's suddenly taken under the water by something. Bo leaps into the water after him, using her jetpack underwater to travel deeper in search of him. She finds him and they make their way back up to the surface using a jetpack. But as they do, Her flashlight shines upon an open eye of a giant creature lurking in the depths. It's the mythosaur, so large you can't see all of it on screen, which looks at them but doesn't react much to their presence. It's alive as well. Bo and Din surface back at the steps, looking shocked at what they've seen, and the myths are real, and this realization creeps over Bo's face. This brings much of what she believed into question. Bo and Din sit upon the steps in utter disbelief of what they've seen, and the episode ends. Now, this sounds like one of the best episodes we've ever gotten of The Mandalorian. Much of the marketing for this show has built up to Din's quest to be redeemed, leading many of us to believe it would take the whole series to do that. But to have it wrapped up in episode 2 now opens the question for what's next. I can't wait to see the next episodes. It sounds massively exciting, but also now I'm even more excited to see where the rest of the season is taking us. Will they bring the Mandalorians back to Mandalore? Is that what comes next, or is there something else that goes on? Let me know what you think down below. Remember to subscribe if you enjoyed today's video. Leave a like as well. I'll catch you in the next one. And remember, this is the way.